Resources, inspiring interviews, business practices, and practical advice to take your art career to the next level. Join Sergio Gomez in today's Artist Next Level and get ready to take control of your career.
Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Artist Next Level podcast. I'm very happy to be here with you today. Have a great session for you today. Have an interview with none other than Tony Karman. Tony Karman is the president and director of Expo Chicago, which opens here in the city of Chicago at Navy Pier on September 19. You don't want to miss this interview. It's super cool. It was an interview I did for my show Breakfast with Sergio, but I want to share it with you too as well. Now, before I do that, my friend, I want to invite you, if you haven't done so yet, to go to iTunes and give me a review. I would really love if you can give an honest review about this show. Maybe you have been listening for years. Maybe you just started listening. Maybe this is your first episode. If you love it, if you like it, just go to iTunes, give me a review, and then take a screenshot of that review. And then you can go to my Instagram at Sergio Gomez Art and message me with the screenshot of your review, and I will be happy to give you a surprise. There's a surprise in store for you if you're willing to give me a review on iTunes, and that would be pretty awesome. It will make me feel so good. It will make my day. And of course, as a thank you, I have also a special gift for you. So thanks, my friends. Enjoy this episode. Enjoy this interview with Tony Karman. Good morning, Tony. How are you doing today?
Extremely well, and getting ready.
Awesome, absolutely. Well, first of all, Tony, I want to say thank you so much for being in the show. I know you are super busy right now. We're only literally a few days away from Expo Chicago, and I know how busy that could be for you, but you have made the time to be here with us, and that's very welcoming for me. Thank you so much for doing that.
It's truly my pleasure, honestly, for all that you do for our community as well.
Thank you, Tony. So, Tony, I have one quick question for you, which is a pretty good one, and I'm really looking forward for your answer. So, because this is a breakfast show, what is Tony Karman's favorite breakfast?
You know what? I love being home. I actually make a kind of like a power shake every morning. But if I was really bad and really good with my wife, there's nothing like a couple of wonderful soft-boiled eggs on some toast with avocado and being home with my wife and two cats and enjoying a quiet morning. I don't get to do that too often. I'm either on the road or working, but when I do, it's nice to just lay low.
Well, that is pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. And the power shake, that sounds great. And that's the secret behind Tony Karman's success, right?
It's almost every morning, and I won't bore the audience and everything that I put in it, but I pretty much do that every day.
We have to do a special show sometime after all the hassle just on the recipe that you have, and then I'll share your mine, see which one wins.
Deal. All right, deal.
Great. Well, Tony, as we're getting closer to the fair, there's been a lot of anticipation. Now, this is the 8th year, so we're super excited to have that again. I can't believe it, already 8 years, And tell us how many galleries are participating this year, how many countries are represented in Expo Chicago?
We have 135 galleries from 24 countries and 68 international cities. And that also comprises 30 galleries as a part of our exposure section for more emerging programs, as well as our profile section of solo artist installations. So I'm proud that we've maintained, a broad swath of the world. Much of our programming obviously addresses international issues. And so once again, I think the world is well represented in Chicago in September.
That's fabulous. Something I was reading on the press release was about the ship that's going to be also here in Chicago, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a lovely collaboration. Amelia Kabakov, we had met the artist last year, and she approached us to cite the Ship of Tolerance in Chicago aligned with the fair, and the Amelia and Amelia Kabakov Foundation are the main sponsors of that. It will be happening at Polk Brothers Park at the entrance of Navy Pier.
Right. And one of the things I love about Expo, which kind of leads us to the next question, is that, it's not only the art fair itself, but it's all the programming that happens around the fair, not only in Navy Pier, but also within the, extensive area of Chicagoland area. So it's really an extensive project, which, something that started perhaps, as a fair, now has become a citywide event. And let's talk a little bit about the impact of Expo Chicago in the local art community, which for me is super important as an artist here in Chicago, working with so many artists myself, just to see how much it has grown and what the impact, the reach of Expo. Tell us a little bit about, over the last 8 years, what you have seen happening in the city of Chicago because of the art fair.
I talk about that a lot. There's no city like Chicago as it relates to collaboration. Institutions, collectors, artists, museums. This is a city that likes to work together, and we've benefited from that wonderful ethos in our city. It's been very important to me to foster that collaboration because of what I believe strongly, how the ecosystem can serve the local community. I remember going back to the early 80s when I worked at the fair, and our artists that are studying at our art schools, they get a chance to actually come to Navy Pier and survey what's happening in the contemporary art world at their doorstep. And I think that that's important. But most important to me is that, we're bringing curators and collectors and arts professionals en masse to our city. And they're coming to the fair, which they should, and we want them to in support of our exhibitors. But they're also, exploring what our great cultural offerings in the city are. They're going to artist studios. They're going to our institutions. They're going to galleries. And, when that energy happens, it just unlocks what we all know living here, that there's so much that needs to be seen and explored, and it makes people come back, and I hopefully feeds the ecosystem for 4 days. I always say that this is a city that works for 365 days out of the year. We're only 4 days or a week of activity. But if that week of activity is in service of the greater good of our arts community, then we feel like we've done our job.
That's correct. I totally agree with that. And I think also, as a community, we can look forward to Expo Week as well, in our own programming, the things that we all are doing. And it's also, something that I find it really super cool is that, Expo also has become a meetup place for many of us because we are all busy running our own programming in our venues, and that, Expo is a great place where you see people that you haven't seen since last Expo, right? So in the hallways, you find curators, you find other artists, you find, great people that work here also in the city of Chicago that, becomes kind of a meetup place where we can all catch up with each other. And I think you have created, kind of this great atmosphere around that, which is really wonderful.
Thank you. We hope to, and hope to amplify it every year.
Absolutely. Now, Tony, I want to talk to you also something about that for me was really special. I work behind the scenes with you like 3 years ago with the National Museum of Mexican Art, co-curating the booth with Margaret Faloni, and it was a great opportunity to work and to see behind the scenes how it all works. And I have to say, you have put together quite an amazing and very impressive team of people. Everybody from, the helpers who are helping the galleries during the setup and takedown, to the press people, to your deputies, everybody who's working at Expo Chicago. They were so helpful, so nice, so supportive. So you are a leader, right? And in order to do this, you have to have leadership skills, which is something I'm super interested about. Leadership itself. So I have a question for you. As president of Expo Chicago, what is one leadership principle you have valued over the last 8 years?
Well, I think I've learned how to trust the professionalism of a great staff. And I think that in many ways, you just have to step back. I'll interject where I can, and obviously using your word, lead where I need to lead. But I also have learned with an extraordinary staff that is equally as committed as myself, to let the professionals do what they do. And I think one of the things that we value most of all, and I can say that actually today as we're having this conversation, there's an air of calm and determinedness in the office, not fear and with this need to catch up. And I think that has a lot to do with a staff that, knows what they're doing, owns what they have to do, and recognizes that, we all work for 360 days out of the year for, 5 days out of an event. And, we do our best to make it as successful for our exhibitors and everyone as possible. But I think that's probably, if you ask me, it's learning how to step away a little bit and not micro has been important for me. I don't know if they would agree with me on that one, but I have to say I so value their commitment and drive, and it's a pleasure to see.
And, for me to have seen it behind the scenes, I think, it really, I say it because I believe it too. I saw it with my own eyes. It's not something that I heard somebody said, but everyone was so helpful to make such a great experience. And, that's, I think that's something that continues to happen now in 8 years. Could you, imagine now 8 years in the making of this?
I cannot at all. It's amazing. And, we continue to mature, and we actually think about it almost as a first year. I mean, there's certain systems and programming that we created that are now, that have a legacy to them. But I think every year we approach this as a first year endeavor because it keeps us on our toes. I wanted to add one thing to your last question, and I think that myself and the team also recognize that we need to be of service, and call it Midwest or call it all of us, but we do our best to make sure that the exhibitors who are paying a great deal of the freight, as well as the attendees, get what they pay for. And I think that definitely trickles all the way down to the temporary staff that recognizes that, it's our job to serve during that week, and hopefully make sure that, the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, as one says. But I think that, and do it with professionalism. And I think that, we try. Anyway, I wanted to add that because I think that we really do care a great deal about welcoming the world in the most proper and right way. Make Chicago proud.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, Tony, we have come already almost to the end of our conversation here. And before we go, I want to say on behalf of the Chicago art community, thank you so much for all you do. Thank you so much for everyone who's involved in Expo Chicago, from the person who receives people in the parking lot all the way to the president and director yourself. You have been so kind. Thank you for making time for us here at Breakfast with Sergio. We appreciate you. We value all the work that you do. And where can our friends find more details about Expo Chicago, both website, social media? How can we find more about the show?
It's simple. Obviously, it's expochicago.com. But then you can always use the @ or the hashtag Expo Chicago if you find that you want to post something during that week or the experience and attach us. We look forward to welcoming the world, and I will end with thanking you for all that you do for our great city as well. Your commitment is not unrecognized, and so thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that effort. I think we in the cultural community like this word collaboration, and you do it well.
Well, thank you also to all our friends who are watching or listening. However you are consuming this content, we're going to ask you one quick favor. Please share it with your friends, and we want to see you at Expo Chicago from September 19th to the 22nd at Navy Pier. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Goodbye.
Check out our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find our podcast library, learn about our upcoming webinars, find resources relevant to your career, and much more. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you at the next level.